It's the Smart Driving Cars podcast. Thank you for spending time with us once again. This edition is made possible by CARTS, the Corporation for Automated Road Transportation Safety, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to safe and high-quality mobility for all. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alan Kornhauser. Hi, Alan.
Hey, good morning, Fred.
Good morning. Well, on top in the latest Smart Driving Cars newsletter, Waymo, the Google Alphabet-owned autonomous mobility company, says it is bringing Robotaxi service to Los Angeles. You have a few things to say.
Well, yeah, when I heard that they were going to announce it, I got all tingly and had great expectations because I had noticed for some time that they had vehicles out there. They have a whole big facility. I'm not even sure what area of Los Angeles it's called, but it's near the airport. It's where the aerospace industry once existed. And I just thought that, oh my goodness, here we go. They're really going to do something that is going to that's really going to be disruptive in the mobility space. And I guess I titled the whole thing "So Disappointing" because what? It was worth an announcement. What did they announce? Something they're gonna do? Who knows when? With how many vehicles? A couple of dozen? What?
The TechCrunch version of the story said that they'll have more than a dozen vehicles, is the way they put it initially, and scale from there.
And scale for sure. I understand. We all start with with basically a dozen, but my goodness, for LA, I mean, that does nothing. And for whom and what? And is it really going to be ride hailing? You're really going to compete with Lyft and Uber? I know they claim, LA is the third largest ride-hailing market. Really, you want to be a ride-hailer? I mean, ride-hailing is really mobility for those for the rich. Who get to be chauffeured around, by people that you have to pay the lease to, and that's what you're going to do. That's the disruptive technology. I give the quote in the newsletter. That's the Schumpeter disruptive quote. I invite you to read it. I mean, if you want to be disruptive, you can't just compete on the margin with somebody, whatever. You have to be decisively different, better, either on cost or quality, or both. And depending on what they do with these vehicles, they could be. But there's no indication of any of that. I mean, really? You want to give rides to LAX? And from LAX? They're about to open a subway or an airway, or I don't know, some mass transit system there. I don't know if that's going to do any good to help out. Last time my wife and I went to LA, we were going to the AV conference in Anaheim, and we were going to take Uber from LAX to Anaheim. We did take Uber. The price of the Uber in the LAX terminal was $75. Not cheap. But of course, for me, I was on an expense account. What do I care? And when we showed up to actually go to the place where you get on, the kiosk, where you get on, I mean, it's a kiosk type. You have to go to a place. It turned out the price was $150. They doubled it. while we took the 5-minute walk to go from the United terminal over to that location. Went from 75 to, hey, now if you want it, it's 100.5. If you really want it. I said, of course, I'm on an expense account. Fine. That's what you're going to go do. And there's no mention of any ride sharing. You're really going to go out there in LA and just put vehicles out there that look like all the vehicles doing all the trips the way all the trips are done in LA with basically one person in it? And people, I mean, and you're going to think that somehow this is a disruptive service that everybody's going to clamor to? And is it that you're going to have safety as your lead? What are you going to do? Say Uber and Lyft aren't safe? So that you can differentiate yourself? Plus, everybody assumes that it's safe. If it's not safe, you're not in business anyway. If you're safer, anybody buy safer? No, I don't think so. Again, not everybody's for the last 50 years have been driving Volvos. If safety sold, everybody would have been, if safety would have been a disruptive service concept, Volvo would be the leading automobile manufacturing company for the last 50 years.
Well, what we've talked about now for years is the real disruptive technology and using all of this to provide mobility to people who truly have a need for it. Providing transportation to people who have few alternatives. And maybe there will be some component of that, one can hope here.
Well, it would seem, but it doesn't seem like they've done the market research or whatever to find it. You know, being safer than Uber, Lyft, or taxi, or bus, or car, or whatever, is not a disruptive concept. I don't believe. Providing mobility to those who don't have access to a car, that is. And I know, and not
affordable would be a key word.
And affordable.
Right.
And affordable. And affordable. But my goodness, if you have the level of company that Waymo now is, and I don't know what their current balance sheet looks like, but it can't look much better than what GM Cruises is. And we got a hint in the last GM quarterly statement of what the balance sheet of GM Cruise is. And it's basically losing $5 million a day. And I can't imagine that Waymo is substantially better than that. They have no revenue. And I can't imagine that the people that they have hanging around there are being paid, you know, minimal salaries. And so, and the number of vehicles they're testing and doing all that, absolutely. But at some point, you've got to be a company. So that means if you just keep the same entourage going, you better be able to show 5 million of revenue on top of whatever additional operating costs, capital costs, of what you have. With a dozen vehicles, how do you, how do you
Even
make
your $150 a ride isn't going to cover that.
even $150 a ride isn't going to cover that. And I know it's a start, but why don't you give us a vision? And maybe you don't want to behave like Elon. Maybe you don't want to go out there and, put all these goals out there. And I'm not suggesting vision zeros or visions infinity, but how are you going to do this? And how would you dare to do this in LA without at least talking about ride sharing? The problem with LA is the average vehicle occupancy in vehicles is like 1. And in fact, it doesn't take into account the chauffeuring the families do to take kids to soccer practice or music lessons or school or the doctor or whatever, in which who knows what the average vehicle occupancy is. Less than 1. Can you imagine Waymo out there operating these vehicles with nobody in them as they're repositioning them from where somebody got off on their ride hailing over to the next person to pick them up right where they're ride hailing? And there's nobody in there. There's going to be at least a couple of guys or gals going to say, look out there, whoa. Those things have nobody in them, and they're running around in our streets over congesting them. And with Uber and Lyft, when well, it was Elizabeth and I, but if I would have been alone in that Uber going to Anaheim, we could have gone on the high occupancy lane, the HOV lane. Why? Because there are 2 people in the car. Even though the car was providing one person ride, or the other person was a computer. I mean, phew. And in a Waymo, there's only going to be 1 person. So it won't be able to even use the high occupancy, the HOV lane, because there's only 1 person in the car. So they're not even as good as Uber Lyft. And this is their disruptive technology that's going to explode and hit at the very heart and substance of the competitors. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, we'd love to have them come on with us and chat about it and explain what their vision is.
I don't know where they're coming from. Well, I do know where they're coming from. They're coming from Silicon Valley. They're coming from people who have a whole heck of a lot. They're coming from people who have more cars than they know what to do with, who drive alone, who would never even think of going with somebody else. And of course they're there. And they haven't even tried to go out there and look for that, for whether or not. I mean, we commented last week about the fact that they have all these groups that they're working with disabilities, yet none of those disability groups are economic disabilities. They're up here. Okay, so you can be a Louis Vuitton, or whatever, or a Gucci, or a Ferrari. Okay. What a shame. How disappointing.
Meanwhile, Alan, John Zimmer, co-founder and president of Lyft, is saying in TechCrunch that autonomous vehicles won't replace drivers for at least a decade. And he says he can't imagine any time in the next decade plus where Lyft would need any less drivers than they have now.
Absolutely. For somebody on an expense account, which is, I don't know what percentage of Lyft's revenue or driver revenue come from people on expense accounts, on business accounts. but it's a non-small percentage. And for each of those, when they're looking at who to take, who are you going to take? Who, I mean, maybe I'm just weird. I'm the weird person. Am I going to take an Uber or Lyft driver or a driverless one? Maybe the first time so I can brag to you. Hey, Fred, look at my selfie. I went in a driverless vehicle.
Maybe you save some tip money if it's driverless.
Yeah, but I don't care.
Right. It's expense.
I don't care. It's an expense. I don't care. I don't really care. Okay. And what do I appreciate about that Uber or Lyft driver? If something happens along the way for me to get from A to B, I've got a person who's an experienced driver because they have a star rating of 4.832, who I know will finagle their way around and get me to that airport or get me home. Do I have that kind of perception of the Waymo driver? I don't think so. So when it comes to the decision process, at which I decide, am I going to take this guy or that guy? I mean, at best, it's a toss-up for Waymo. It's not at all disruptive. And it probably turns out that it's not even a toss-up. So Lyft is right. There's no way these people are going to. What was disruptive about Lyft and Uber was the ease at which you could get them, and the comfort, to me, that you could see that the vehicle is actually coming to you to pick you up. And the experience that and reinforcement that you get every time by being able to see the vehicle coming to you, as opposed to where's the bus? Where's the bus? Or is the taxi coming? Are they not coming? Where in the heck are they? I mean, that was the disruption. For Waymo to be disruptive in LA, they need to identify the market in which high quality auto-like mobility is not available to those folks, to those entities, and that they have some opportunity to get them to rideshare. Then they can be sustainable and improve congestion and all the other sociological things you need to do in LA, and deliver a substantially higher quality service to those folks inexpensively. We're a third the price of Uber Lyft. And we aren't going to surge price you. Maybe a little bit, but not very much. Then they can become disruptive. There is no indication, none, in any of that announcement that they're going down that route. And I mean, I don't know. I guess, I guess I've been in the Princeton bubble too long or something. I don't know. LA must be different. Great. Boy.
And the concept you just spoke about is one that you've been pushing for in New Jersey, elsewhere, and there's so many places where that could be employed.
Absolutely. You look at the partners that Waymo has in LA, there's not a group that deals with affordable housing. Maybe there is no affordable housing in LA. Maybe they should provide mobility to the homeless and figure out how to do that and help those people, get to where they need to go and so on, and the services that they need, and be able to improve themselves. Why not do that? Why go help rich people? Terrible. Sorry.
On the Tesla front, Alan, on the company's earnings call, Elon Musk talked about the company's potential to be bigger than Apple and Saudi Aramco, and they caught a lot of flack for that.
Yeah, even together. I mean,
Right.
Bring it up to 4.5, whatever, I don't know, 10 to the 9th or whatever the heck the number is. I mean, it's like, who knows what, right? I don't know. Elon made the same statement during AI Day 2022, and basically says that with robotaxis, if they massively scale that, they can do that. I love their idea about wanting to massively scale robotaxis. Of course, I love that idea. Have it to be a small vehicle that you'll Airbnb out there for other people to use, I think is just totally off the wall. The amount of responsibility that you need to have to provide safe, legal mobility to individuals is substantially greater than the responsibility that Airbnbers have to have me spend a comfortable night. And in fact, if I wanted to be a whatever about it, okay, I did an Airbnb 2.5 years ago, or now getting on to 3 years ago, close, in Miami. And I believe that in that Airbnb, I got Legionnaire's disease. It almost killed me. In fact, I probably died in the process, and they brought me back. And that's totally irresponsible of that entity for it not to be clean of, the whatever bacteria it spreads that does Legionnaire's disease. But of course, I have better things to do than pursue that whole line. And maybe I'm only speculating here. But if you're going to provide mobility to an individual, you have the responsibility of that being safe and legal, obeying the rules of the road, the laws of driving, of mobility, of adhering to speed limits, of adhering to staying in your lane, to adhering to stay on the road, to adhering to stopping at stop signs, and so on and so forth. And us as individuals, sure, most of us, do a reasonably good job of that. But it has to be more than most of us. And so it takes a really responsible entity that can control all of those individual pieces that provide the mobility to do that. It has to be as good as United Airlines, or pick another one of the carriers. Just flew to Italy and back. United is there. Oh man, we're safe. We're going to get you safe. Here's something to wipe your hands, and you're not going to get COVID here. It's safe. We're going to be safe. We're going to get you there safe. We're going to get you there safe. The whole aviation industry for the last, at least 15 years, I mean, phenomenally safe, and doing it safely, repetitively. And in fact, each one of those few entities that have survived, the Continentals are gone, the TWAs are gone, the Eastern Airlines are gone, the Air Italia airline is gone. I mean, it's made, coalesced into entities that if there's a perception that you're not going to be safe on that airplane, nobody's getting on. And it doesn't take many crashes for people to look at what happened to Boeing with the 737 Maxi a few years ago. And who knows whether or not it was pilot error or was really what it. And so if we're going to be providing mobility to individuals, it's got to be safe. What the heck does Uber and Lyft really want to make sure? That when you get that person and that vehicle's coming, that the person that's coming to give you that has a rating of 4.825. I even had a 5.0. I was hoping this wasn't his or her first trip or second trip. Oh, very important. Why? So that the question of safety doesn't even come up. It's not that you're safer. It's the question of safety doesn't even come up. And now you're going to put some of these things out there. I mean, there was another article that I don't think I quoted about Tesla, apparently putting out a newer version of their stupid summon. They call it smart summon or whatever it is, where you can kind of stand out there and, put your vehicle away or let your vehicle go by itself. Really? You're going to put that in the hands of consumers? Sure. 97% of them won't abuse it. 3% abuse it, you're dead. Don't do it. And certainly don't make any suggestion that you can do this anywhere except on your own property. You're not responsible enough to put it out there on the public streets. Anyway, I'm too much preaching this morning.
Tied in with the plans for Robotaxi, I think, are the plans that he's talking about to build a smaller vehicle, smaller than the Model 3 at half the price.
Yeah, well, he is, which, I of course love Elon because his fundamentals. He wants to build two cars that costs them what it costs them today to build one car. In other words, half the price, half the cost of building it. And of course, he says he's not necessarily going to offer it at half the price. Hey, why not? You're not make some profit off of that. He always, the beauty of his electric vehicle is that basically it has half as many parts as an internal combustion vehicle, give or take. The only good part is a no part, reduce part count, fundamental, which really great fundamentals. To make a robotaxi smaller, robotaxis, I think, have to have sharing as part of it. We have to change our mentality here. If we really want to deal with this, with sustainability, ride sharing is important. The United Airlines flights from Newark to Rome, Rome to Newark, 777s, every seat filled. I don't know where they carry 350 people, 300, whatever it is. With what, 2 pilots, maybe 3, who knows? I don't know, call it 7 or 10 attendants. That's productivity. And here we are, running around LA, 1 person per car, essentially all the time. It's like crazy. When there are how many empty seats in a car? Oh, but would you really want them traveling with you? What?
For ride sharing, then we might want to advocate a little larger vehicle, not a smaller vehicle than the Model 3.
Yeah, I think you have to, if you're going to have this thing being used by people going from A to B, getting rides, as I always say, like an elevator ride. What's kind of the beauty of an elevator? It's really easy to get in and out. Even if you're in a wheelchair. There's no reason why these robo-taxis can't pull up to a curb, if that's a designated place, such as they're perfectly level floor, no trip, very little trip opportunity, mind the gap opportunity, so that those that are visually impaired, those that are mobility impaired, and so on, can easily get in and out. Those that are elderly easily get in and out. But the vehicle ends up having to be a little bit more accommodating than sliding on a bench seat and hitting your head on the as whatever. And so if he's really going to do robo-taxis, he needs to go back to the drawing boards in terms of the design. He needs to revolutionize that even more than he revolutionized the Cybertruck. And I guess he's going to do okay with the Cybertruck, although, Ford is out there with their E150, right, Fred?
The Ford F-150 Lightning. I got a chance to drive one around for a few days over the last week.
So how was that, Fred?
It was, the vehicle is beautiful, very roomy. It's an F-150, so it's big. It's the best-selling vehicle in America for I don't know how many years, decades.
Yeah.
And the electrified version of it is quiet and clean, has this enormous frunk.
Frunk. I was going to ask you about the frunk, Fred. I mean, I could see if you're putting a big diesel engine or whatever, or a big V8 and turbocharged whatever, that you need a big front end on these things. What's the big front end for? What's that?
In this case, I think it opens up a new market for the F-150, because a lot of people might be carrying groceries, golf clubs. They don't want to necessarily throw it in the bed of the truck. Now you have a locked, out of sight storage area, the same as a sedan would have.
So I'm not going to need a cover over the back of my truck so that it doesn't get wet and so on when I throw when I'm hauling stuff and throw in the back. I throw it in the frunk.
You put it in the frunk. A new word. I don't know how soon it'll be in the dictionary, but it's a new word.
Yeah, no, I know. So why do I have a bed in the back?
Well, that's for when you're going to Home Depot and bringing home these plants that are 6 feet tall, or etc. Hauling bigger stuff. That's what that bed is for. But it is quiet. It's clean. The biggest problem that I found.
Oh no, there's a problem with it. No,
not with the vehicle. It's with the charging network. Yeah. Elon Musk's genius was in building one of his geniuses, I suppose, was in building out the proprietary charging network, right, which he may open up to other vehicles over time too. He said he's going to. But that is fast. It's efficient, so easy to use, 20 minutes in and out. The Ford F-150 uses a variety of private charging networks. The one that I used, that Ford has a partnership, is Electrify America. And at a couple different places that I went to, maybe they had 4 charging stations. 2 were out of service, 1 was out of service. And one of the problems is companies like Hyundai have given buyers of their electric vehicles, in many instances, a year or two of free charging on Electrify America's network. So all of those people are going to go there as often as they can because the
You
charging
mean
is
I'm
free.
going to buy a Ford Lightning and I won't be able to charge it?
Well, you'll be able to
I'm
charge it.
hauling.
I would suggest charging it at home. I mean, and of course, one of the things that they try to sell with this is the ability to have two-way charging, being able to power your home in the event of a blackout through the vehicle.
Oh, very nice.
But again, when you're on the road taking a trip, it is not going to be, at least now. Hopefully, things will improve as more charging stations are opened around the country, and many are, in the planning stage. Through the legislation that Biden pushed through. For right now, not as convenient to charge, not as fast necessarily to charge. At least that was my experience.
Oh my goodness, Fred. Maybe they're going to be unhappy that they let you use one for a week.
The vehicle, not a problem at all. It's a beautiful vehicle. Have to say that.
Especially
but it's a charging network which they do not own, and that will be improving over time. So I don't think long term it's going to be a problem for them. But right now, given sometimes the lines that can form at some of these charging stations, I didn't have to wait in a long line, but some people do. And remember, it's going to take maybe 20 minutes, half an hour for each person. So if there's a line of even 3 vehicles, that's a long wait.
So let me ask you, Fred, with this, with gasoline stations, it's been, I think it's a federal requirement that they advertise, that they show in big letters, big things, what the price of the gasoline is so that you can drive by and decide to buy it or not to buy it. Is that the same thing at these charging places? They're telling you how much the whatever kilowatt, whatever things are going to be.
It should be evident on the app that you use when you look
evident
for it.
On the app.
Most of these stations are.
So when in your app, you could see, hey, the station over here is 42 point whatever, and over there it's 62.74. Right, or whatever, and the price is changing every second, so you know which direction the price is going to be, or you can lock in the price before you get there.
I don't know that you can lock in a price. I didn't go into that, but perhaps you can. But
can you? I mean, you can imagine if I were to set up a lemonade stand, in which a lot of people want lemonade.
You're going back to your Uber ride that doubled in price. But yes.
Yeah, I mean, did I have a choice?
It's going to cost.
Did I have a choice? No. Okay, what was I going to do? Go back to go back and whatever, and somehow. I mean, they had me in a corner, and they just took advantage of me. And so why won't this great charging place that has such high demand? Guess what happens? It's fundamental economics, supply demand. Boom, there's the curve.
I don't know that that's taking place. That they're boosting the price, minute by minute. Of course they could, and I've heard even with Tesla, for instance, their superchargers. Much more expensive to use in places like California, where power is more expensive than they would be.
It's $8 a gallon. It's $8 a gallon in California. I think it was $10 a gallon in Florence.
So that's one of the big issues there. Not faulting the F-150 Lightning. The range of the vehicle that I drove is probably less than a typical Model 3, maybe 270 miles. But for most people, the people that they want to sell this truck to today, the typical people who are buying the F-150s, many of them contractors, have many needs for job sites. The thing is full of electrical outlets and USB ports. It's got so many, hard to count. The front, the back, the bed, they all have outlets. So you're going to be able to power whatever you want to power.
And
in these vehicles.
and you can
Even the
charge
front, even the front has outlets. So
probably, and
it
all
does.
of your tools are now battery operated tools, so you can charge up your battery back on the job site. And of course, most folks don't go very far to the job site, because if you
Right.
have to drive a long distance at job site, guess what?
They're going to
You're
hire
not
somebody
earning
else.
money.
Right.
So
And
you're
they'll get a local contractor.
So everybody gets local, and you got home. Great.
So they should be able to.
I guess the reason we
sell
went
these.
into this whole discussion is when you look at the Cybertruck, how it comes in and whether or not it is disruptive on the disruptive. I think one of the challenges that Elon has is he probably should have been out there having you test drive a Cybertruck before Ford let you test drive a Lightning. And him being second in the market on that one may end up hurting him.
It may, but they have orders for as many as they can build for the next few years, it sounds like, anyway. But here's the other thing. And the other thing I did get to test out with the F-150 Lightning was Ford's Blue Cruise.
Yeah.
Which is, on designated roadways, the divided highways, that they allow you to drive hands-free. It tells you on the screen that it's available once you've pushed the button on the steering wheel to enable Blue Cruise. And it tells you where you can be hands-free and can let go of the wheel. I'm not sure what the real benefit is to that. I guess maybe there is some comfort and relaxation, but you do have to be attentive. A camera is watching you to make sure your eyes stay on the road. If you look away for any substantial length of time, there's a warning beep that comes on, and then it will turn off. So they are doing that, and I think it's pretty
and I think
similar.
That's all very good.
I have not driven GM's Super Cruise. Maybe you have, but I assume they're pretty comparable.
Yeah, and I think that that's all very nice. But what gets me about this is the biggest comfort and convenience of that is not your hands off the steering wheel; it's your feet off the pedals.
Right.
It's the feet off the pedals. It's
in
not
the,
having
in
to
the
do
case
this,
of
do
in the
this,
case
to
of an
do that.
EV, it's singular. It's pedal because you're only typically using one pedal because of the regenerative braking. But yes, you can drive.
No, but it's really there. Of course, there's a brake pedal there.
There is a brake pedal, but typically in an EV, you're not making use of it because of the regenerative braking.
I understand. No, it's a different. I won't argue with that one, but still, air resistance stopped me also. So therefore, I didn't have to use my brakes. Okay, now it didn't provide gasoline back into my tank, but really, I mean, what drives me, the biggest value is feet off the pedals.
Right. Well,
not
you
hands
can
off the wheel.
You can.
And in fact,
you are doing both.
I know. Is there a camera making sure that your feet remain somewhere near the pedals in case you have to go do the pedals? No.
No, I don't think so. One thing it does do, if you do change lanes, which you're doing manually with this, it does not turn off the Blue Cruise. So you can switch lanes, and then it's assisting.
It acquires a new lane.
It's right. It does.
Or if you put the turn signal on, it will actually find a. I don't know.
It did not do that. Not the vehicle I had.
How often do you change lanes, or how often should you change lanes? Very rarely. One.
Right.
Two. My goodness. Have the human do that one. Okay.
Right.
That's a responsible thing. Okay. And it can help out. It should keep you from trying to change lanes when somebody's in your blind spot. But I don't know. But of course, I think differently than all these folks.
With Blue Cruise and with Tesla's autopilot, maybe it's me, but and I think most people who haven't driven these for many, many, many miles, I found a level of discomfort when you have vehicles coming into your lane, entering a highway into your lane if you're in the right lane. Am I going to trust Blue Cruise and Tesla's autopilot. In many instances, yes. But if there's a line of vehicles coming onto the highway,
their opportunity,
I tend to want
to zipper is maybe limited. My goodness, look,
I tend to want to take control.
Hey, look, you're the responsible one. If it doesn't do it right, it's your fault, Fred.
Right, you are
It's your
responsible
fault.
still.
Okay. If you're, driving is not a right, it's a privilege. And to have the privilege to drive, you must accept the responsibility of safety, and you must have to accept the responsibility of doing it within the law. And if you're not within the law or you don't do it safely, it's on you. You can't say, hey, the dog ate my homework. Oh, Elon said this. Oh, Fred and Alan said that. Oh, it's on you. Period.
Well, Ford and Tesla make that clear to drivers that you have to be in control of the vehicle, ready to take control, no matter whether you're paying for full self-driving or have autopilot or using Blue Cruise. You're still responsible.
Yeah, nobody so far has said, "Oh, my system is so good that I'll take responsibility." Fred, you just get out of the way, Fred. Nobody's done that yet, and it's not going to be anytime soon that anybody is going to do that. But we've discussed this ad nauseum.
We have one more Tesla headline, Alan, that we haven't talked about yet. Elon Musk saying the company is tentatively aiming to produce 50,000 Tesla semi-electric trucks in 2024. That's the year after next. And that would make it one of the largest Class 8 truck makers, according to Electrek. And he's got a long way to go. He's going to go from 0 to 50,000, but I guess he's got the assembly lines, that are being built now.
It seems as if there's nobody out there competing with him. Nobody practical, nobody substantive. My goodness, he may be out there first, and if he puts autopilot on there, and then what's it take? Just cameras. Cut it out.
The idea that you've talked about many, many times is the benefit to drivers, making their jobs easier, safer, more comfortable. And if these can do that, I guess they're worth their weight.
If these can do that, as well as be electric, as well as having the range that they're talking about, that is disruptive. That's a cost and quality differential over the existing marketplace. Now, can he deliver it? Certainly is a vision. Certainly is a vision that's disruptive to me.
Right. And Electrek also has talked about Elon Musk's language when it comes to self-driving, full self-driving, changing a bit, although he's still talking about achieving level 4 or 5 over the next year.
Yeah. I mean, look, everybody's language of this is all over the place. Again, defining the operational design domain where this stuff works safely and legally, and finding all those and finding the one that out of all those that best serves society seems to be the place where you want to start. Doesn't seem to be the approach of Waymo nor GM Cruise, nor the others. Maybe a little Ford Argo. So I don't know. Hey, whatever. We're in our own little world here, Fred.
And while you have your Stillers shirt on,
yes, Stillers today
from Pittsburgh, there's a headline. Locomation has furloughed staffers amid this continuing tech downturn that we're all
Yeah.
aware of.
Yeah, it turns out this objective of doing driverless, whether it's trucks or cars, is really difficult and really requires an enormous amount of investment and substance. And the little simple solution coming out of the garage and whatever that basically does it only does 80% and doesn't do the 99 point whatever that you got to do. And so therefore it's going to have to be a substantive entity. And to survive that whole time without revenue until you get there, the investors seem to be, I don't know, especially in this climate, and I don't know, this winter is not likely to be very pretty in large parts of Europe, Germany, Hungary, who knows what, because of the situation with Russia. And I don't know, we got some rough road ahead.
We do. On that note, Alan, we want to thank CARTS, the Corporation for Automated Road Transportation Safety, for helping to make this podcast possible. CARTS is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to safe and high-quality mobility for all. You can find us, of course, at smartdrivingcar.com. Also, wherever you turn to for podcasts, Anchor FM, Spotify, TuneIn, Apple, Google, Spreaker, Amazon, you name it. Smart speakers can play us too. You can find my tech reports at textination.com. If you go under interviews there, you'll find my test drive of the F-150 Lightning. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Alan Kornhauser. Thank you for listening or watching, and please stay safe.
Enjoy your Sunday.